With the new hellscape that is the US government under an impending Trump presidency, there is no shortage of things for me, a leftist news commentator, to be screaming about at this point. Yet somehow, only 2 weeks into this post-election world, I'm already feeling overwhelmed. Not in an I'm gonna give up kind of way, but more in a screaming about every little thing seems like not the best strategy kind of way. And while I vow to continue screaming like a banshee on this channel, especially given the new report that Pew just dropped showing that most news influencers that have a political affiliation are right-leaning, and women are outnumbered 2-to-1 by men in this category of content, which makes me feel like my voice as a leftist woman is at least somewhat important in the cacophony of internet noise. But I do pride myself on being a big picture person, and I refuse to let the onslaught of right-wing bullshit overwhelm the bigger picture and the strategy. So instead of discussing Matt Gaetz' scandal or the unexpected appointment of Linda McMahon to Secretary of Education, y'all were pissed at how I said her name last time. Reminder that these people, I don't care. Also, some of you in my comments section misspell my name even though it's literally on the screen in front of you, so I think I get a pass. Anyway, instead of getting into the weeds today, I want to take a step back. Inspired by Jon Stewart's recent call to Democrats to start finding and exploiting loopholes like the Republicans do and stop trying to enforce norms that the Republicans simply ignore, I want to explore the question, when they go low, how effective is it if we go low too? Let's get into it. First, a palate cleanser, literally. Y'all, I love bread. I am thrilled to say my partner on today's video is Wild Grain, the first bake from frozen subscription box for sourdough breads, artisanal pastries, and fresh pastas. It's a carb box, y'all, delivered straight to your door. Wild Grain partners with small bakers and pasta makers across the country to bring you fresh carbs, like what more could you ever possibly want in life? I too had a sourdough phase during lockdown, but listen, I don't have time these days. But I also love the natural starter sourdough taste. It's a real conundrum, but with Wild Grain, you get all the benefits of sourdough without the hard work. They use slow fermentation that can be easier on your belly, richer in nutrients and antioxidants, and can help lower blood sugar spikes. And this is freezer to table in 25 minutes. Every item you receive from Wild Grain bakes in 25 minutes or less, so you can enjoy homemade quality whenever you want. Like, I'm sorry, have you ever just had croissants on demand? Like, oh wow, I could really go for a buttery croissant straight out the oven right now. Boom, in 20 minutes you'll get it. It's truly thrilling. I also tried their giant chocolate chip cookie, and again, just on demand, hot cookie, straight from the oven. It truly does not get better than this. And instead of some old dry noodles, why not try artisanal noodles in your next pasta dish? The quality can't be beat. If you want fresh breads, pastries, and pastas delivered straight to your door, and literally, why would you not? Be sure to click on my link in the description and use my code Leeja30 to get $30 off your first box, plus you get a free item in every box. Yeah, you heard that right, a free carb in every box if you use my link below along with my code Leeja30. Honestly, you're welcome. Thanks, Wild Grain. Despite her loss, Harris's campaign was the first time we've really seen a large Democratic platform start to kind of go low. They leaned into calling Republicans a bunch of weirdos. The Harris headquarters memes and TikToks were scathing and funny. We could all use a little sense of humor. And it felt fucking good. But then she lost to a man holding lackluster, half-empty rallies who'd outsourced his ground game entirely, indicating that mean internet memes and flashy PR doesn't necessarily win elections and certainly doesn't create meaningful policy change. And while a lot of finger-pointing has been done at who lost the vote for the Democrats, was it the Latino men? Was it the progressives? Was it poor communication? Was it the working class? Was it black men? The reality is that we are now living in Trump's America, where everything's made up and the rules don't matter, at least to Republicans. Meanwhile, the Democrats are standing to the side screaming, "Hey, he didn't follow the rules." Elizabeth Warren is outraged because Trump hasn't signed transition documents, and then the media writes 15 think pieces about it, and everyone on the left is over here getting their panties in a bunch over whether Trump is following technical norms. Meanwhile, he's colluding with child molesters, sexual predators, bigots, and white supremacists over how to rein in all aspects of governmental control, and his supporters are on the ground in the states getting incredibly creative, trying to write laws that can't be undone in the courts. Laws like the anti-abortion ones that have been passed in recent years that give private citizens the right to bring lawsuits, which, while abhorrent, present a novel legal concept that is effective in tripping up the legal system and providing enough friction to get what they want, scaring the shit out of doctors so that women die instead of obtaining proper medical care. Meanwhile, the Democrats continue to yell, "Well, that's not how it's done. That's legally questionable. that'll face court challenges. And that is the one place where I think Trump's experience in business benefits his political pursuits. In the business world, litigation and fines are calculated into the cost of doing business. Sure, they're concerned about their public image, so they'll buy into corporate social responsibility and try to hide scandals behind payouts and NDAs, which are also calculated into the cost of doing business. But being sued is an incredibly normal part of doing business, especially when your business is huge. So doing abhorrent things or going against rules or norms without thinking much about the consequences comes naturally to Trump and the people who he surrounds himself with, who are often associated with or funded by big business. So, for example, when Trump says he's going to invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to deport or detain immigrants, and Democrats scream, "But that's a questionable application of the law. That'll be contested in courts." Trump says, "Okay, try me. I'm going to do it anyway." So the question then becomes how? How do people on the left go about shifting from enforcing norms unquestioningly and clutching their pearls over rule breaking into finding and exploiting the loopholes that serve them along the way? And how do we do it in a way that doesn't turn our government and democracy into anarchist chaos where the new norm is to never respect any rules at all? Because I'm not an anarchist. I'm not interested in a complete demolition of the system. We've talked about this before. The people who would be hurt most in that scenario are the ones who are already most vulnerable in this one. And a certain level of decorum is necessary for generally functioning in society. We don't want to, as one NBC News article put it, answer authoritarianism with equal and opposite authoritarianism. But clearly, sticking to long-established norms and values just for the sake of rule following, calling Republicans out for breaking the rules or being hypocritical, that shit doesn't work. The people who vote for Republicans don't care, and the Republicans themselves don't care either. Now, a lot of those loopholes are going to have to be discovered by Congress itself and the lawyers working behind the scenes. But I think step one is for the left as a whole to more clearly delineate what they do care about. We do care about preserving representative democracy, a system where people can openly and fairly cast their votes, where the people who write the laws are answerable to the public. We do care about having a government that provides for its people. The richest country in the world should be able to provide at least the bottom two rungs of Maslow's hierarchy of needs to all its citizens: clean air, food, clothing, and shelter, as well as safety, security, and healthcare. Within that, there are lots of different modalities and worldviews through which to view how those things should be provided. But the point of identifying what we do care about is to focus the strategy and provide common ground so that even if we disagree on the details, we have a united vision for what government should be. Because once we can say those two things, democracy and social services, are the purpose of government, then we can start to delineate between the rules we care about clutching our pearls over versus the ones we're willing to tweak or throw out the window. And maybe my two strategic priorities, democracy and social services, aren't the exact answer. The main point is that we have to come up with some sort of clearly delineated strategy and platform that a large swath of people can agree on, and we need to be willing to overlook the details and be willing to agree to disagree and align with people who fall slightly to the left or right of us in order to save our country from falling off the fascist cliff. So really, a strategy that can unite a large chunk of people that generally fall to the left of Trump, which is most people, will be a good strategy in this case. And I think if we take the considerations of the top 1% out of the mix and focus on what lower and middle income folks actually care about, we could come up with a platform that generally we all agree on. Again, even if the how of getting there is iffy and we don't see eye to eye on everything. But to provide a jumping off point, I propose the government's role should be fortifying representative democracy and providing the basic requirements for life to its citizens. So that's what we should be most concerned about. Because Republicans have done this. They have their goals, and they won't let norms or rules or even laws stand in their way. And instead of being on the defensive all the time, playing whack-a-mole by calling out Republicans for hypocrisy and lies that they don't give two shits about, those on the left can instead play offense, seeking out ways to counteract Republican initiatives and be creative in their own way. And we can do this by largely reverse engineering the same playbook the Republicans have used for decades, but this time for lefter-leaning means. On Monday, I spoke about the Powell memo, and I made a whole episode about it a while back, but that is kind of seen as the blueprint for the right-wing takeover of our country, so we can use that as a reverse engineering guide. Republicans claim there is leftist bias in all levels of government, the media, and higher education. While I think the leftist bias they've been screaming about definitely isn't a concerted effort by anyone to align the talking points or values espoused by think tanks or universities, but is instead just natural conclusions a majority of people come to when they're taught critical thinking skills, I say okay. They already think there's a huge conspiracy promoting leftist bias. Why not lean into that and weaponize that bias to actually do something good for a change? Sure, they have billionaires, but we already have the major apparati, because the reality is that while there is a wide range of viewpoints that fall left of center, pretty much all of established experts, professional associations, think tanks, and universities, as well as every other similar country in the world, fall to the left of the fascism Trump is promoting. So it's time to coordinate. And that coordination, based on what conservatives have been doing for the last 5 decades, should have 5 prongs: universities, think tanks, the media, national lawmakers, and local government, and each prong has its own job. Universities must promote and publish academics and academic thought that espouses ideals in line with the goals of democracy and government's duty to provide for its citizens. This happens in every educational department, but especially in economics, because people really take that seriously. Promote economists who espouse economic theories that go against the established neoliberal, libertarian, free market bullshit, because in the 40 years since Reaganomics, we can tell that isn't working for 99% of us. Promote economists whose theories espouse ideals that would benefit the 99%. Bring them in as speakers, publish their articles, hire them and give them tenure, allow them to mentor and inspire upcoming generations. Promote law professors who teach creative lawyering and who espouse theories that promote our end goals of greater democracy and a government that provides for its people. Bring them in as speakers, publish their articles, hire them and give them tenure, allow them to mentor and inspire upcoming generations. Think tanks, a category into which I think nonprofits generally can be included, provide jobs and funding for those academics and lend their work greater legitimacy by publishing their reports and pushing them as experts to the rest of society. These think tanks should push their experts to the media, to talk at universities, to speak before Congress and local government bodies, and to not be afraid to act as lobbyists for their work. These experts should be in the ears of every lawmaker. They should be making public appearances, not just hiding in back rooms analyzing research. Think tanks should be pushing the work of the experts coming out of the universities that espouse the theories and ideals of democracy and government that provides for its people. There should be a constant revolving door between Washington, D.C. and these think tanks and universities, so those with expertise are advising elected officials, writing policy and laws, becoming elected officials, and building a strong network of people within all of those spheres who believe in these ideals. They should have a team of communications experts within these think tanks and nonprofits that can package this work in-house and push it to a wider audience. And those communications people should also work with the media. The media should be in constant contact with these think tanks and nonprofits and with the experts working at the university level to rely on that expertise for their reporting. They should report on the research coming out of these think tanks. They should write thought pieces about the findings. They should publish op-eds from these think tank and university experts. They should cite to them wherever possible. More news media need to be willing to stand up to far-right hateful ideology, to refuse to give airtime to fascist right-wing bullshit coming out of these think tanks and universities being funded by billionaires, to stop fearing the accusation of bias. That terror of being called biased is what got us here in the first place. The right funded think tanks and experts to promote their twisted ideology and then screamed bias when the news media didn't legitimize their work with coverage. And so they were terrorized into giving equal coverage and therefore legitimacy to the billionaire-funded, weakly researched, often debunked free market ideology being spewed from these right-wing sources. This means fact-checking Trump at every turn. It means not legitimizing him or the people he surrounds himself with or right-wing experts by presenting what they say as though it has any merit. This also means supporting and building news organizations with an explicitly left-leaning bias. People on the right have no qualms about presenting Fox News as fair and balanced, despite the fact that, as we discussed on Monday, from the very beginning it was founded to be explicitly right-wing and political. People to the left of Fox News are terrified of appearing biased, and there absolutely does need to be journalistic standards of fact-checking and integrity, but expressly left-leaning media needs to be prioritized as well. This needs to happen in every form: written, social media, video, podcasts, talk radio. One can be a critical thinker and biased at the same time, and our feverish obsession with remaining unbiased or only consuming that which we perceive is unbiased means that we've lulled ourselves into the false sense that humans are capable of being unbiased. We are all adding our own personal spin to the stories we tell, whether we have an audience of millions or an audience of one. Media literacy requires that we reckon with that instead of trying to place our faith in the idea that there is one beacon of unbiased truth out there. That's not really how life works, and that's not the reality we're living in. Everything has a spin, and the right-wing media landscape spin is winning. The federal government, lawmakers, and federal workers, and everyone in between needs to be infiltrated by people left of Trump. This means prosecutors who won't go after immigrants or seek harsh penalties, Congress members who are products of the university and think tank system willing to take risks to push the agenda through creative law writing, social media PR, and constant contact with the media, and who have strong connections with those universities and think tanks. This means government lawyers seeking out those loopholes that Jon Stewart talked about and figuring out creative and risky ways to exploit those loopholes. Again, not to the detriment of democracy, but in support of it. Democrats and independents willing to speak truth to power, to get a little rowdy, and to play a little bit dirty. And local government is where a lot of us can really up. This is where the experimental laws can be written and tested. Laws that use creative tactics to promote left-leaning causes, like ending voter suppression, reversing gerrymandering, promoting non-winner-takes-all voting systems, enshrining civil rights, providing universal basic income, graduated taxation, making housing affordable and available, etc., etc. These laws can be ones that have never been tried, but also established tactics, like, in the case of increasing voter enfranchisement, universal registration, automatic mail ballots, and other initiatives that make voting as easy as possible. Your role in this depends on who you are and what your skills are. Check out my episode from a few weeks ago about how to get involved in local government for more information, but the key is to pinpoint your skills. For me, one of my skills is communication and also being absolutely fucking annoying. I noticed a fence went up under an overpass near my house that displays some on-house folks that don't seem to have been provided any services or alternatives for shelter. So I emailed the Minnesota Department of Transportation, my city council person, and my state house representative asking why my tax dollars were being wasted on a fence that didn't address the underlying issue of lack of affordable housing. The Department of Transportation email was forwarded with the message, "Can one of you deal with this?" Yeah, I'm going to be a person that my local government has to deal with. Make a fuss. Run for office, learn the law, and get involved with local government wherever you think you can best up through creative law writing. Take risks. Be willing to make people annoyed at you. Be a little mean for fun. The widening gender gap means a growing portion of the left is made up of women. Women who have been socialized to be as likable as possible. Do whatever you can to break yourself of that habit. Join a coven. Bathe naked in a river. Scream your lungs out at the moon. Shave your head. I don't know. Whatever speaks to you. Now is not the time to be likable. Now is the time to be annoying as fuck for the good of your community and your country. White ladies, take your "I'd like to talk to the manager" energy and channel it towards annoying your elected officials to the breaking point so they pass meaningful progressive change that, again, moves the needle towards our shared goals of protecting democracy and providing for all our neighbors. White men, take your mansplaining straight to your city council or your state representatives and use your place in society to advocate for progressive change. Be annoying. And your role doesn't have to just be annoying concerned citizen. We need everyone, not just leftists and progressive, but everyone who doesn't agree with the direction Trump is taking this country to look inward at the skills they possess and consider how those might best be used to the benefit of this five-pronged approach. What are you good at? And what do you enjoy doing? That's called your zone of genius. Not just something you're good at, but something you thrive at. How can that be used to Trump up? Like I said, I love communicating via these videos, providing information and hopefully inspiration, and also being annoying as that lends itself well to making these videos and bugging my representatives. Maybe your one true love is getting into the streets and screaming. That's great. Maybe you've got a journalism degree. How can you use that? Maybe you're amazing at research. How can you spin that? Maybe you're great with computers. Someone hacked the Gates report and got their hands on some information that hasn't been leaked yet. I'm not advocating for breaking the law, I'm just saying that's an interesting use of a skill. Maybe you love talking to people and advocating for them. Perhaps it's time to consider running for local office or getting a law or public policy degree. Maybe you're incredibly creative. There are so many things creatives can do in these trying times. Look to other creatives throughout history to get inspiration for how to speak truth to power or inspire others through your art. Or maybe lend your artistic skills to a cause you care deeply about. Maybe you're a master gardener and you can provide sustenance for your community. Like, truly, what do you thrive at, and how can that be used in favor of one of these 5 prongs of this movement? Focus on that. Let me go crazy reading the news every day and distilling it down for you. I'm here for that. In fact, I just launched a Friday newsletter. It's called Why America, the Newsletter, and you can sign up for it at the link in the description. Every Friday, I'll highlight a story I've been thinking about, as well as other headlines I'm watching this week. It's free, truly just offering it as an additional service in these trying times to help you avoid burnout and overwhelm. So what can you do? It doesn't have to be a major career change. It can be a small act of resistance every day, but coordinating those acts of resistance towards a common goal will make all of our work that much more effective. If you're interested in learning more about money and politics, eating the rich, building class solidarity, etc., I invite you to join me over on Patreon, where we're planning some initiatives to help build community in Trump's America. Plus, you get ad-free and uncensored versions of these videos and episodes as well. Go to patreon.com/LeejaMiller to join. Thank you to my multi-platinum patrons, RH, Latranger Lucas, Joshua Cole, Thomas Johnson, Anthony Giles, Tay, and Brett Piontek. Your generosity makes this channel what it is, so thank you. And if you haven't caught it yet, check out my video from a while ago about how to get involved in local politics. Thanks so much for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.